Live from the Zoom studios, the 17 and Me Show, starring Ambassador Jeff Rivero, inviting you to join our special guest, Congressman Jim Costa. And here we go!
Welcome to the 17 and Me Show, the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals Show. I can't wait to have our special guest out here tonight. I consider him the hardest working congressperson in Washington, D.C., and a close friend of mine, Congressman Jim Costa. Congressman Costa is one of the highest ranking officials on the Department of Agriculture, so I can't wait to tell him, what do you get when you cross George Washington with cow feet? The fodder of our country. Which rock group has 4 presidents in it, but can't sing a lick? Mount Rushmore. What's the best way to describe George Washington when you're talking to a visitor to Washington, D.C.? The best way is in general terms. Whoa, that's the last time I let you guys in for free. And finally, what's the difference between George Washington and a platypus? One has his face on a bill, the other has a bill on its face. Congressman Costa is going to be out here in just a moment, but first, here's a commercial break from our sponsors, the United Nations.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
to end extreme poverty.
The generation
most determined
to fight injustice and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done. The global goals.
A 15-year plan
For everyone, everywhere.
with no one left behind.
We will live in a world
Where nobody
anywhere
Lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
where no one
wakes in the morning.
Asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die.
Diseases we know how to cure.
and where proper health care
Is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world where
everyone goes to school
and education gives us the knowledge
and skills.
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
to thrive and be powerful and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is headed back.
We will live in a world
Where all people can get clean water.
and proper toilets at home,
At school,
and at work.
We will live in a world where there's sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light, and power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
We will live in a world where economies prosper. And new wealth
leads to decent jobs
For everyone.
and we will live in a world where our industry
our infrastructure, and our
best innovations.
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
We will live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of inequality
Are defeated
inside our countries
and between different countries.
where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume.
Planet where we put back
What we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back the threat of climate
change.
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
will restore and protect
life on land,
The forests.
Animals,
The earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
with everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people.
Work together.
Partnerships of all kinds.
To make these goals
A reality.
These are the United Nations global goals
For sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
Let's make it happen.
Welcome back from our sponsors break, the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It brings me great honor to introduce our guest on tonight's show, Congressman Jim Costa. I consider Congressman Costa the hardest working person in Washington, D.C., and a friend of mine. How are you doing tonight, Congressman Costa?
Well, I'm doing well, and I want to thank you, Jeff Rivera, for the incredible job you do in educating America's future. There's not a more dedicated educator that I've ever met than you, and the passion and the desire you have to not only ensure that students get motivated, but that they understand the critical issues facing our country and the world. And that's why you've been awarded so many different times, but also the United Nations goals of dealing with sustainability in our environment and the impacts of climate change. So I get inspired by you, and it's just my pleasure to be a part of this interview today.
Well, thank you very much for those kind words, sir. I appreciate it. I'd like to start the evening off by asking you, what was your support system or your infrastructure that helped build the road to the mission that you are on? Who are the people along the way that helped you? Also, what were some of the things you did when you came across roadblocks or barriers? How did you overcome them?
Well, I was extremely fortunate. My parents and my grandparents that immigrated to this country, like immigrants past and immigrants present, were illiterate and non-English speaking when they came here. My father, born in Tulare County, and my mother, Kings County, didn't speak English into the first grade. And they had a very limited education. They worked really hard. So when my sister before me and I came around, my parents, although they achieved success as farmers, really put a premium for their children's education. And my sister was the first in our family to go to university and graduate, and I followed years later. But it was that support system. And that's why I think the work that you do and being a part of this program today, if I can impart anything among the students, is that your education is your foundation. And truly, you have to think about it in those terms. And I'll tell your students, my friend Jeff, what I tell all students, and that is to do me a favor. And that is to be the best you can be and get a solid foundation. And that's your education, because it will be with you the rest of your life, and no one can ever take it away from you. And guess what? If you do well in school, our nation's future is intact, because you're the future of America. And so we're counting on you.
When did you come to realize your mission for public service or to serve as an elected official?
Well, I don't know that anybody, it's part good fortune, it's passion, it's Bernie, I'm a farm kid, and I have a real sense of the earth and the water and the air, and the fact that we have to be sustainable and that we've got to protect the environment. And but in between my junior and senior year at Fresno State, my mother, who it's kind of remarkable, my sister and I always think, she had to quit school as a freshman in high school in Lemoore. And my father had less of an education. A sixth grader, he had to quit. But our mother always had dreams and aspirations for her children. And she talked about an internship program in Washington, D.C. with our local congressman. And, when I wasn't in school, on weekends, I worked on our family's farm and throughout the year. And she said, Jim, I've heard about this internship program. Would you like to maybe go to Washington, D.C. for the summer? I thought, wow, that'd be cool. I'd never really been out of the valley for any length of time in a major city in our nation's capital. And I've always loved history. And to work in a congressman's office, she says, well, I know the application process, and we're going to talk to some folks who might be able to be helpful to you. Well, the long and the short of it is I got that internship program that summer. And it was a historic time in our nation's history. And that really motivated me and began to encourage me to think beyond, the valley and what I might do. I was thinking about I might just go back to my family's farm. I got to thinking about how a congressperson can help people and make a difference in their lives and make our country better. And so that was kind of the first, phase and how I got motivated. And then I went back to finish my senior year and worked with some friends and got involved in a local campaign for a person running for Congress, and they were successful and they got elected. And I asked if I could work with them back in Washington. I got a job, and one thing led to another. And then in 1978, I ran for the state legislature at 25 years of age, and one of the youngest ever elected to the California State Legislature. And the rest, as they say, is history. I've been so blessed to have the honor and opportunity to help people every day. That's my passion. The politics, I think like a lot of people frustrate me on any given day. But I do what I have to do what I love to do, which is my passion. And that's helping make America, making our valley a better place for all our people.
Thank you very much, Congressman Costa. Right now, let's take a commercial break from one of our sponsors, Yosemite High School's Green Ribbon School. Last year, we applied for the Green Ribbon in the state of California, and the state superintendent, Tom Torkelson, chose us as the gold level recipient in the state of California. This year, we were chosen as the federal pick for Green Ribbon. Congressman Costa visited our campus. Our students were able to show him what we do here at Yosemite High School. And what we have going on is the Green Team is working on different projects inside of what we call our garden area. We have a bee pollinator, we have orchard where we're growing plants, and also we have a greenhouse where the students do succulents and also seedlings.
I think it's awesome that we're trying to build like a self-sustainable classroom out here, get more green, save energy. It's better for the planet because, all the climate change stuff going on. Here at the orchard, we're growing avocados, lemons, and pomegranates. And with the avocados, we hope to make, guacamole. And then with the lemons, we want to make fresh squeezed lemonade for the students and faculty. I think it's awesome, honestly, that I'm able to help, doing this.
Yosemite High is just doing amazing things with students who are looking for a second chance. And the Green program is something that is so important because we've got to, make sure that we treat the planet right and that we focus on renewables. And this Green program here at Yosemite High, home of the Dragons, is really a reflection of what these students are learning. And I'm so proud of each and every one of them.
Being awarded the gold ribbon means a lot to me, and I'm sure everyone at this school, especially because students come to the school as a last resort. A lot of times they're down on their luck, they don't feel like they have a lot of hope. And being able to achieve something so great and so meaningful, especially helping the environment, I'm sure it means quite a bit to everyone here, especially the students who've worked on it.
It's very exciting to see the hard work that's taken place and to see Yosemite High being recognized as it should be for all of these efforts to make it a green ribbon school that it is today.
Hey, hey!
We're back from our sponsors break. I have our special guest here, Congressman Jim Costa, who represents California's 16th District. Congressman Costa, do you have a specific SDG that's your favorite, or do you have multiple goals? And why are they your favorite?
Well, I have multiple ones. And frankly, the 17 sustainable goals designated by the United Nations all have, one could say, equal importance, because they're all critical to the future of our planet. But areas that I have worked on in my legislative career, both in Sacramento and now in Washington, have focused in areas that really deal with our environment and the concerns about climate change and the impacts that it's having on our way of life and our sustainability. And that's the water and the earth, which is so sustainable, in our air. You know, we say where water flows, food grows, but food grows in those soils that are so rich here in our San Joaquin Valley. And our air quality, and we've seen with this change in climate and these extreme drought conditions we're facing and the fires that we've been having. My gosh, we don't have a fire season anymore. We have a fire year. And so those three areas, air, water, and the earth that we walk on, all are impacted by climate change. And it's important to note that we must figure out a way in which those critical resources to life are sustainable. They have to be sustainable. That means that, you know, they have to last for generations, because otherwise, the students that I'm speaking to, what are you going to inherit as you become the next leaders of our country and leaders of the world? If our air, our water, and our soils are not sustainable. Let me put it in this way. 200 years ago, we had 1.7 billion people on the planet. 1.7, 200 years ago. A few years ago, the planet clicked 7 billion people. Think about that. So in 200 years, the population on the planet has more than doubled and tripled. It's almost quadrupled. And it's estimated by the middle of the 21st century, where you will be making determinations and you will be contributing as the adults of that generation, that we're going to have another 2 billion people. Think about it. We're going to go from 7 to 9 billion people, it's estimated, by the middle of this century. And if we don't do a better job of creating sustainability so that we have a reliable supply of water, so that we have soil qualities that can produce the foods that are necessary to sustain ourselves. Food, I always say, and you know, I'm a farm kid, it's a national security issue. Most people don't think about it that way. They, well, you know, a grocery store is full of food, and you go to my favorite takeout or restaurant or whatever, and they got food. But it is, we take it for granted. And about 4% of our population in this country is directly involved in the production of food and fiber that we eat on America's dinner table every night. And without good air quality, our ability to thrive and to breathe clean air, which also reflects the impacts of climate change, because if we in fact build up carbon in our atmosphere, as we have done in recent decades, we create an unsustainable situation. It's really that simple. And we see, you know, it getting warmer and hotter. We've seen that. And the sustainability of our water supply and our snowpack becomes less so. And it then impacts our ability to make our food, our soils produce the food that we need. And so, while all of the 17 goals are important, but they also have spin-offs. I mean, like hunger. Hunger is very critical, right? But if you don't have sustainable water supply and make sure that our soils are fertile and productive, and that we don't exhaust the productive nature of our soils, and we don't have clean air, you're not going to deal with the issue of hunger and all the other issues that are related to this. So I'm working very hard on all of the above for sustainability for the future of our planet.
Thank you very much for sharing your passions for the 17 Sustainable Development Goals with us. I would like to tell you thank you very much for all the support you've given me and the United Nations when it comes to environmental issues. You've done an outstanding job for the San Joaquin Valley, the state of California, and our nation. We really appreciate it. Looking back at your life's journey, the path had to have been very exciting and full of successes. And I know you're looking forward to projects and programs that you hope to complete in the future. With that being said, is there any words of advice, encouragement, or wisdom that you could share with our audience and students to help them achieve success in their life's goals, missions?
Yes. First of all, let me thank you for having an opportunity to have a conversation with you and the incredible teacher you have, Jeff Rivera. But I get asked often by students about who are interested in kind of what a congressperson does, what an elected official does. And I think sometimes that interest is in part you thinking, well, what is it you really do? And maybe is that something I'd like to do? And so I think what you're asking me is what the secret sauce is. Well, let me tell you what the secret sauce is. And it's regardless of what if you wanted to pursue an opportunity to be involved in government at the local, the state, or the federal level, or in other capacities under which you could serve. But the secret sauce is the same for whatever career choices you make in your life. And they're very simple. Hard work. There's no substitute for hard work. Everything that you do ought to be a reflection of who you are. And so therefore you should do it well. Whether it's a menial task or a medium level task or something really complicated and complex. Regardless of what you're doing, you should do it the best you can. And when you learn good work habits, let me tell you that there aren't any shortcuts. Trust me, I've tried most of the shortcuts. They turn out to be long cuts. So anything worth doing is worth doing well because, again, it's a reflection of who you are. Secondly, as a part of this secret sauce, is always try to treat people the way you'd like to be treated yourself. Really. I mean, you know how you want to be treated as an individual. And the overwhelming majority of time, when you do that, it's responded to. People reciprocate. On occasion, you'll run into some turkeys, for lack of a better term. You may have your own description. That when you're trying to be nice and be collaborative and cooperative, and they're not responsive, or they may be insulting, or they may do other things that are hurtful. Guess what? Move on. Unfortunately, there are some people on our planet that are just very disagreeable, but don't let it, take you down. If you treat people the way you want to be treated yourself, the overwhelming majority of folks will respond in kind. And if you develop good work habits, you're going to be successful, whatever your dreams and aspirations may be. So that's my advice on the secret sauce. That's what has allowed me to be successful over the years. My parents taught me those habits as a young boy. And I like to think that that's the basis of why if I've had any success, why that is the case.
Congressman Costa, I know you're an extremely busy person. There's a lot of things to take care of in our state and in our country. So I really appreciate the hard work that you're doing for us. I was going to ask, can we take a peek into any of your projects or programs that might be coming our way that you can give us a little bit of a heads up on and tell us about?
Yes, and my legislative career has been focused on helping people and every day and investing in our future. And what do I mean by investing in our future? I'm talking about in our infrastructure. I'm talking about investing in our short-term and long-term water needs. Remember, I talked about how critical water is for our sustainability. and that we have to make sure that we have a reliable supply of water. So I've got legislation this year that will help improve our water supply. I've also believed that investing in our transportation infrastructure is key, especially as we look at trying to be more climate friendly. We've got to reduce our carbon footprint in the air to ensure that we deal with the issues of climate change, and at the same time make our air easier to breathe. I mean, our air, some of us love to go up to the mountains. One of the reasons I love to go up to the mountains is that the air is a lot cleaner up there. And so investing in energy sources that are renewable, that are clean burning, moving to electrification, expanding broadband so that we can do so many other things that are critical to advancing your opportunities for the future to be educated. So much today evolves around the internet. So investing in those kinds of infrastructure tools, electrification of our rail, high-speed rail to be specific, focusing on better transportation systems that are more energy efficient and that does not impact our air quality. So I've got legislation that would help, advance broadband and help continue the efforts to construct high-speed rail that provides cleaner burning means of transportation. And guess what? When you invest in water, when you invest in transportation, that improves the economy because it creates more jobs. And then the third area that I'm working very hard on this year is to create a medical school in our valley and other areas across the country that are underserved. This pandemic has taught us a lot of lessons, and I hope we learn those lessons. It's impacted every segment of American life, and we need to learn from that because we're not out of the woods yet. And by the way, for the students, and I assume you're all over 11, if you're not vaccinated, please get vaccinated for you and for your families and for your friends. It's so important as we try to get out of this pandemic and get our economy back on track. But one of the things we've learned about this pandemic is the shortage of physicians, doctors, and nurses. We wear masks and we have personal protective equipment, PPE, and we've had to, sadly, people that go into critical condition in ICU units, we've had to create more ventilators. And we can do those things in a matter of weeks and months. But guess what? We've now solved the impacts of a shortage of doctors and nurses. And you can't make a doctor and you can't make a nurse overnight. And so therefore medical schools and improving our nursing programs are critical, even before the pandemic, but certainly now with those brave men and women who risked their lives during this pandemic, going to work every day, potentially being affected and impacting their families, but yet going to work every day to try to protect us from this pandemic. So a medical school I've been working on very hard so that we can address the deficiencies of the amount of doctors that we have in our valley. We need more doctors, we need more nurses. So those are among the things that I'm working on this year in terms of goals to improve the quality of life for the people of our valley and the people of our nation.
Well, Congressman Costa, the time has really flown by tonight. It's very exciting to hear the things that are going on in our country and also some of the passions and programs that you have before us. And thank you for sharing your life's journey with us. Before you go, is there any addresses or places you'd like to people to look up information of either about our country or our district?
Yes, we have our website that I would refer you to. And as you close the show, we'll give you the name of the website. A lot of information there. We do a weekly newsletter most weeks, and to update you on what's going on efforts that I am engaged on your behalf. And we also are on social media as it relates to Twitter and Facebook. And so I urge you to tune in to Congressman Jim Costa, and our website is costa.house.gov. And look us up and do me that favor. Be the best you can be and get a solid education. Because guess what? If you do well, America does well in our future. We're all in this together. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate your time. If you'd like to learn more about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals or teach it in your classroom, please go to teachsdgs.org. Thank you for watching our show tonight, and I look forward to seeing you on our next episode of the 17 and Me Show. Have a great night.